Well, and that's so many times what happens in any great journey is, you have what you plan to do, and then you have what you improvisationally do, and sometimes those happy accidents turn out even better. Logistically speaking, did you have, you mentioned a friend, someone following you the whole time? Were they always right behind you? What was that support like?
Yeah, so I connected with a lot of people. Charlie Angle one, who's an ultra runner who ran across northern Africa. He tried to do this similar in 2008 to break the world record for running across the U.S. And he was doing 2+ marathons a day. And on the 19th day, he had shin splints. So he told me a couple things. He said, one, you got to use these poles to walk with right away, day one, because it takes the stress off you. Second, you need an RV. You need to have an RV there because you're going to have problems with weather, you're going to have wardrobe problems, you're going to need to stop. A car won't cut it. So I ended up building that in up front, and then we had a driver whose both of his parents or grandparents had Parkinson's. His mother I had run the Disney Marathon with 2 years before, and he is going to do the Pacific Crest Trail this summer and had time off between his last adventure and that to drive us. And he was driving the RV, so the RV would kind of go past us. I'd walk past the RV, leapfrog us that way throughout the whole journey. And we had him up until the last 3 weeks, and then he had a medical problem in his family, and one of my neighbors came in and filled in for the last 4.
Okay, good. Because some people wonder how do you do this, and we similarly, when we rode our bikes, we had what people call probably similar a SAG vehicle, support and gear, and it becomes your mobile everything, and so.
Yeah, I mean, I had so many calls. I was attacked by dogs all over the place, and I'd call him, and he'd come back, and we'd drive 3 houses up and stop, and then I'd walk a little extra distance the next day to get past the dog or something, right?
But you don't have cell phone service everywhere, right?
Oh, that's true. We had walkie-talkies.
Okay, good. I was going to say you had to have a sat phone or something because I ran into that. I almost died near the border. I had the Border Patrol come to me when I made a wrong turn and started heading toward Calexico, and we were going in the summertime, and we were all getting some heat exposure, and I was thinking too much of myself and rode out in front of the group, got lost, and got no service and had a real problem. So I know what, that feeling of being exposed. Is significant.
Exposure story, if you want to hear it.
Please.
But I was in Roswell, New Mexico, and the day that we changed drivers, the one day that I was unsupported, they dropped me off 12 miles from Roswell, and on the way to the airport, and then my new driver was coming that night. Beautiful morning, 35 degrees, going to warm up to the mid 40s. This huge windstorm kicks up out of nowhere, and it's 50-mile-an-hour winds. And debris is flying everywhere, like sidings flying by me. I go into a ditch, and I'm calling. First, I look for an Uber, can't do an Uber. Call the taxi companies. No one can hear me. They're hanging up on me. I call the hotel that we were going to try and stay in that night. I get the person at the front desk. She's like, I can't hear you. I'm hanging up. A mailbox was flying over my head at that moment. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to walk into a farmhouse so I can find one or something, because I'm out in the middle of kind of this weird kind of mixture of environment. And I ended up walking 12 miles in 30-mile-an-hour sustained, 50+ mile-an-hour gusts, unsupported, and I thought I was going to almost die a couple times. It was crazy.
Yeah. And that's that moment we talked about at the beginning. I want to highlight that again now because you've done a lot of things where you've pushed yourself. And I think about that like, I like to go bodyboarding. I've been out in waves sometimes that were too big for me. And you have that moment when you push yourself where suddenly you find yourself in an environment and you say, did I do it this time? Did I actually go too far? Did you have that moment?
Yeah, it's really a funny story. Because my mother was like, "You're going to die on the Panhandle of Texas," and I'm like, "Nope, I'm not going on the Panhandle of Texas."
But I might die.
I'm sitting in the ditch in Roswell. I was like, "Oh, Mom is right. Every time I'm going to die in New Mexico." Yeah, and my feet also were so bad, and I didn't think I was going to die from that, but were so bad. Like the second to third weekend. This is like 911 level trauma to the feet and every time I'd fix a problem, a major problem would crop up again, that I was like going up, down, and I'm not prone to depression. I'm very action oriented. I was just like, oh my God, I can't make it. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. And my back went out. I was at several low points where, yeah, I thought I was going to die in New Mexico, but there were several points where I was so beaten up physically that I had very small shred of hope that I was going to be able to finish it.
Well, clearly, yeah, you've got a very high threshold for pain too, and
Yeah.
so if you, with your high level of threshold of pain, went through this, that just tells you how far along you were. And again, you keep asking that question: how far can you go? What, where can we put pain, and where does it become an actual structural, physical, can't go problem? Because our bodies have amazing ways of adapting and allowing ourselves to continue in very extreme situations. But where's that line, right?
Right, and that's what I want to share with everybody is that, I mean, I would wake up and all I would think about in the day, you can't think about the trip at all. I would just like, how can I get to lunch today? And then at lunch, it's like, how can I get to dinner? And it's just this incremental psychology that got me through this, because even thinking of 2 days would have been almost improbable, because there were days when I was so hunched over, I was walking like this. I walked 36 miles with, I think Jimmy Choi was out with me on that walk, where my back was so bad that every step was like pain. But I just had to keep going because I knew that if I stopped, it was just going to create more problems. So, I just kept pushing through. But the way I managed it was just thinking short term. Don't even think about tomorrow. Just think about what you have in front of you and just keep reaching these smaller goals. And eventually solved most of the problems and was feeling a lot better in the last couple weeks of the trip.
So, Bill, we're going to put a button on this because I know we're getting close time-wise, but we clearly have more to talk about. Let's go ahead and just jump forward right now to the end of the trip, and you are at Imperial Beach, which, by the way, as a native of the San Diego area for some time, I got to tell you, you didn't pick the best beach.
Yeah, well, I had a good team looking at that. The first thought was always like Coronado, but I wanted it. Well, let me let you ask the question. I'll tell you some stories about that.
Sure, and the feeling is when you walked in. I've seen the video of you walking in. I believe it's your wife standing next to you, and your feet touching the water. Tell me about that feeling.
Yeah, it was amazing because what we did is I didn't want this to be about me because the story soon became about connecting with other people with the disease and working together. So we had 50 people or so walk with me the last mile to Imperial Beach, which was amazing. And people flew in thousands of miles that I didn't even know were coming, to people that came down from LA and other things just to walk me, as well as a lot of local people who had Parkinson's. We had people in wheelchairs and everything else strolling down with me. So when I hit the water, it was just an amazing culmination of what began as a singular act of me trying to walk across America and finished with me just feeling so much more engaged and enlightened about the disease and the community and the way people are dealing with it, that I still haven't really processed the whole thing yet, because I was just doing it day to day to day, and it was amazing.
From a humility standpoint, which it sounds like you have in spades, which I compliment you on, when you do something this big, you do realize that it's far too much for you. The only thing you can do, almost from a coping standpoint, is to give it away. You have to make it about, like you said, other people, and what can you do with it? Because for you, it'll be rotten if you try to stick with it, or overwhelming. But if you give it away, it becomes something spectacular, bigger than you could have imagined.
Right, for sure. And that now I only I can screw this up now, right? So I feel like I've connected with so many people like yourself and others that, and I learned so much, because there's such a stigma with the disease and so much to talk about with that, and people aren't socializing it, and that's not helping them deal with the disease very well. So I'm trying to find my place in this to help people connect more and deal with the disease better as we work towards a cure. And that's what I'm going to focus my efforts on for kind of the remainder of this year, is how I can help bridge some of that.
Well, that's 100% the same mission we're on. I'm so glad to have met you, Bill, because like I say, Faces of Parkinson's, this show is simply about storytelling, and everybody's got stories. Like you said, my friend Sydney Donna, who says, if you've met one Parkinsonian, you've met one Parkinsonian. And I don't even like that term, person with Parkinson's. And by the way, then you've met one caretaker of a person with Parkinson's. You've met one doctor. Everybody's got a story associated to what we're doing. And there's a human quality underneath all of it that wipes us. We're not defined by Parkinson's, we're affected by it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's the way I live my life. And, I'm really looking forward to continuing this discussion and seeing what the future brings this year. But I'm really energized by it, and I see a huge opportunity to make a big difference in the community. So.
Me too, Bill. So glad to have met you. We will continue this conversation soon, okay?
Okay, sounds great. I would
Uh,
appreciate the opportunity, and it's great talking to you as well.
Great talking to you too, Bill. For Faces of Parkinson's, this is Robert Cochran. We'll see you next time.